So much for staying with Sunrise Live on E! Now, the relationship between domestic animals and their masters is generously documented over the years. Dogs are renowned for their loyalty and compassion. Now, MAXDOG is a human interest story of love, survival and compassion. Joining us for our regular Tuesday book review is author of MAXDOG, Caryl Moll. Caryl, we're happy to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. And for the community that you've created, human interest story where people can share their very embarrassing illnesses, if you will, and be open enough to say, look, I sought help and I had my dog to assist me. How did the book come about? MAXDOG is a story that I had to tell. I remember Max lying at my feet one day, and I knew he'd done amazing things in his life. Not only had he assisted me in healing, but he had touched people across the world through his blog, The Adventures of MAXDOG. And as I sat and looked at this dog, he was 10 years old at the time, much too early to die. I knew he was dying. I simply had to tell the story. His story could not be lost into obscurity. Yeah. Now, you start off the book talking about what seems on the surface like a perfect suburban life, the tall and handsome husband, the two lovely daughters, the Maltese terriers, Fergie and Toffee, and then you were reluctantly thinking, when your husband wanted the dog, that you couldn't possibly raise another dog, especially a bigger breed. But that all melted on that very encounter you had with Max when he came home at 9 weeks old.
Yes, absolutely. You know, there's something about a puppy that just makes you melt. And I'd loved dogs all my life, but this little pup was going to be an intrusion into my perfectly shaped world. And I didn't want him in the first place. But within 10 minutes, he'd won me over.
Yeah, because you were a stay-at-home mum and very focused. I mean, your household was run very systematically, and you had everything in order. Then comes the intrusion, as you call him. But when did the cracks start showing, especially with your depression? Because, as I said, starting off, it all seemed picture perfect.
No, absolutely. And I think depression can happen to anyone, and this is the point of the whole story. You know, I had my life run absolutely perfectly, and I filled as much as I could into that short space of time to try and create the perfect family. And I mean, after all, we're just human beings.
Yes.
And I think having Max in my life and a couple of really unplanned, devastating events caused that man crack to appear and me to fall apart.
And the road to recovery is the process of you writing the book. There must have been certain chapters that were particularly hard to face, even in your own private space.
Absolutely, but I'd like to deal with this question on the road to recovery, and that is, in my case, there were 5 recipes to this success. And this is my personal case. I'm not speaking for everybody. But the first one was to acknowledge that I had a problem with depression. The second one was to seek help, counselling. The third one was to get the correct medication. With those 3 combined, I was then able to find some light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when I discovered my love for writing and started blogging. And then the 5th one was just an absolute gift from God, and that was Max.
Oh, and Max, the adventures of MAXDOG in South Africa, and how you attracted this global appeal and community. How many people are you engaging on an average day?
Well, in MAXDOG's era, we had 250 followers worldwide. The blog was featured on BBC. Probably because we're South African, and that added novelty. Currently, I have a new blog called Living Life to the Max. I've left Max's blog as a tribute to him and a place of sanctuary for my readers. But currently, I'm probably dealing with 192 followers, and the blog probably has about 120 hits a day.
Yeah. I'd said that, especially during this festive period, that there's a high rate of suicide and depression, and the fact that society just expects you to deal with your business, carry on, and not necessarily burn out or have depression. Do you think it's still stigmatized?
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's exceptionally important that we start speaking about it. This is probably the whole point of the book, that I wanted to give voice to, first of all, the amazing relationships and powerful relationships between companion animals and their owners,
And secondly, to highlight the fact that many, many people around the world, I believe 120 million, suffer from depression. It's time that we destigmatize this, that we talk about it openly, and I'm trying to do that with my own personal story.
Yeah, and also supporting the family, because while you're going through your own dark patch, it impacts on your family and your children, etc. So support for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people who suffer from depression have enormous impact on their families. My family did suffer. But at the same time, with this book, I found closure, and so did they. They've allowed me to share their very personal story.
Yeah. And how are you doing now as a family?
Wonderfully, yes. Yeah, my children have, I'm exceptionally proud of them. Both of them are qualified. And they're sitting in Margate as we speak.
Yeah. You're not on holiday, obviously, because you have to be here.
Absolutely, yeah. But what a pleasure, and what an opportunity to share the story with my readers. I'll be joining them later today. I'm flying down to meet them.
Yeah. So if we were to give a survival kit, especially for people who are going through difficult times, and what can they draw from your life experience?
Well, first of all, I think it's exceptionally important. I think it's important for them to find a forum to express themselves, whether it's in counselling or journaling or writing or talking to people. If you're suffering from depression, I would say that is. Seek help, speak about it.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate your time, Caryl, and we wish you
very much.
Blessings and light, and you travel lightly in your spirit as well. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're speaking to Caryl Moll, author of MAXDOG, a book about the love between an owner and her golden terrier, or retriever rather, called Max. The book is published by Porcupine Press, and for more information you can go to porcupinepress.co.za. We're back after this.